Hello, everybody. Sorry I missed the timer, but I'm here now. Hopefully you guys can hear me, see me. How is everybody doing? Can I get some feedback in the comments? Today we're talking about your training-based one-to-many program and why that's the only way to go. So excited to be here with you guys. A lot to cover, but before we get started, make sure you give StreamYard permission. Otherwise, it's going to show up like this. It says hi, right? So I can't see your name, so I can't say hi back to you. So there's some link I think you have to click. But anyhow, so let's get started. In today's show, and I'm going to be live for 25 minutes, a lot to cover. So grab pen and paper if you haven't yet. And we're going to talk about one-to-one versus one-to-many versus hybrid programs. And you might think, on this evolves all the time. And I always want to make sure that I'm giving you the up-to-date information because I want to make sure that your programs are really, really delivering difference in the world, right? And you're really giving your clients the transformation. And as we evolve our program, right, as we add different bells and whistles and retire things that didn't work, I bring you, the most up-to-date information. Okay. Then we're going to talk about the essential components of your program, where we're going to get into the training-based system that I really, really like, where you might touch based on pricing issues and when is a good time to transition from one-to-one to one-to-many, or from one-to-many to one-to-one. So are you ready to get started? Awesome. Okay. Hi. Somebody's joining from Austin, Texas. Awesome. Good to see you guys here. Hi, Pearl. Hi, Althea. All right. So everybody ready? Everybody has pen and paper. Let's go. So first of all, one-to-one versus one-to-many. Let's talk about one-to-one. If you're going to do one-to-one, where do you need to focus? Because a lot of coaches out there talk about, 4 to 6 session packages and, 3-month program, whatever. Here's how I started. I did a 6-month one-to-one program, right? And it was priced at $1,164 a month. This is a long time ago, right? But that's how I started. And it was a 6-month program. And the first thing I did was doing like 45-minute sessions a week. Then I figured out that it didn't work. So then instead I was doing a monthly VIP intensive and some check-ins in between. I quickly realized that there was huge limitations to that, right? Number one, looking at the levels of the clients where they were at. And most of them were beginner business owners or beginner coaches that needed help with different things like setting up their program, their brand, their website. It was crazy amount of stuff that they needed. And I quickly realized there was so much to teach them. So I had to, transition into the group coaching. Now, where I'm at right now is that I have, you guys know, we have QLE and QI, our tier 1 and tier 2 group programs, right? I also do one-to-one coaching. And here's how this works. This is super, super, super high level. Right now, where I'm at is charging $15,000 for a 5-hour VIP intensive. But I just want to give you the context for this because like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. People who want to apply to be in that intensive with me need to be at the very least in multi-low 6 figures for that to make sense. Imagine if I went into the market and said, hey, I want to work with beginner business owners and I'm going to charge you $15,000 for a 5-hour session. It would have absolutely zero integrity. Why? Because it takes a lot more than 5 hours. It takes more like 500 hours of training for you to go from 0 to 6 to multi-6 figures, right? So it would have zero integrity. And what that would create is, number one, people wouldn't be able to implement. They would get discouraged. They would have the strategy, right? But they wouldn't be able to implement. It would make no sense. And then all they would be doing is getting resentful with me, right? So you need to think about your one-to-one. Where does it make sense for your client level, right? If you're working with high-level executives who get it, they just need the strategy, that's a different thing. You can charge $15,000 for a 5-hour VIP intensive, right? If you're working with beginner business owners who are not going to get the ROI on it, even from a 5-hour, even if it was a 10-hour session, because there is so much more than they need, you need to think about a group program. right? Because a group program has, or a hybrid program, which is what we love doing instead, is a way to give them so much more training, so much more value, and for a lot less money. Okay. So again, like, are you going to do one-to-one versus one-to-many? I think integrity is like the number one. Does it make sense for the client at the level where they're at to pay you the money you need to be paid? Right? Now, I want to give you a little bit more background on this and a little bit more perspective, right? If I was right now, if I said, you know what, I want to be doing one-to-one, I really like it. And, what people at the beginner level can afford is probably like $2,000 a month, right? And I started doing one-to-ones at $2,000 in my business right now. Would that have integrity? It wouldn't, because when you get to a certain level in your business, you have a lot of things to manage, right? Right now, our revenue is at about $600,000 a month. And at this point, right, if I went and I said, okay, I'm going to do one-to-one coaching, and I did that, who's going to manage the company? Who is going to train the team? Who's going to run QLE? Who's going to run QI? Right? So you need to look at where you are in your business, because you're not just the coach, you're also the CEO of your business, which means you have a lot of other responsibilities, right? And you might not be there yet. And I know this is a very high level conversation and most of you guys are not ready for it. However, I want you to start thinking ahead. I want you to start thinking as the CEO of your business, not just as a coach who wants to coach a handful of clients. Because as you go beyond the six figures, you need to look at what is an hour of one-to-one with your client cost you that you're not using, or you're not spending leading your team, training your first salesperson, training your VA to do lead gen for you, right? And teaching people in your group program. Is this making sense, you guys? Can I get some yeses in the chat? Because this is, this can be a little bit difficult to understand. I want to make sure everybody gets it, right? But again, when I started at 116 for a month, right? 6-month program where I would literally sit with people, create their signature programs, their signature talk, their branding, whatever, right? But honestly, like, that was great. But after like a 5 or 6 times of like teaching the signature talk, I was getting a little bit bored, right? I was like, okay, I need to, like, this should be a recorded training, or I should at least teach it in a group setting, because I'm getting like a little bit, people are paying a lot of money and I could be delivering in a group situation where, I'm getting paid more, they're spending less, because it was the same thing over and over and over, right? So that's kind of what happened. So when you're getting to that point where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm repeating the same things and I'm getting bored, right? And you have some, you understand your ideal clients, definitely time to transition to one-to-many program, right? So you want to have some experience and you want to have some confidence before you launch your group program. How do you do that? Number one, you can get some one-to-one clients. You can get some pro bono clients. Just go get some clients, guys. If you're new, go get some clients. Start working with people today. Say this to people all the time. Like, hire your family, doesn't matter. Just start building your confidence so that you can launch your group program as soon as possible, right? And by group program, I really mean hybrid program, right? Or launch your beta, right? Launch your beta at a lower price of whatever, a small group of people, whatever. Just go get some experience, right? Now, a long-term strategy, because people ask about pricing all the time, right? Your long-term strategy, we tell people to start with a hybrid program. Typically, you want to do a 6 to 12-month program or more, right? And you're going to have customer progression, whatever, year 1, year 2, whatever you have. We tell people to not ever start less than $5,000 a month, a year, right? Which is going to translate to $411 a month, right? You're going to start there. That's very, very safe. Long-term strategy, you want to be in the $1,000 to $1,500 a month range, right? I'm going to tell you why in a minute, right? But you want to start at the level of confidence where you're at. If you just try charging $1,000 a month out of your first retreat for your group program, and you don't believe that you have the value, you don't have the social proof, you don't have the testimonials, right? It's going to be, and your mindset just isn't there, then you're gonna see people signing up. So start where you at, and then start raising the price every single time. We started with QLE when we launched it, Quantum Leap Entrepreneur. When we started it, we launched at $697 a month. But, I also had experience, right? But I just, wanted to start lower. We also at that point had 2 coaching calls a week, right? That was it. We had a teaching call that I did and a group Q&A. That was it, right? Literally launched it. We didn't have no Facebook group. We didn't have pre-recorded stuff. It was just very simple. How we communicated with our clients was a group chat. It was like nothing techie. Put the landing page together literally the day we launched it. It was like, okay, here's where you go sign up. It's very simple. It was very non-techy. And it was me and 3 other people in a Zoom call. That was it, right? Then we raised the price to $725, then to $850. Then, we were doing the price raises every 8 weeks. Then $947, then $1,047. Then the magical 1164 are just, like that number. So it's like, yeah, let's just do that, then $1,297. Right now we're at $1,497. Then we're going to go to $1,797, $2,000, $2,200, and $2,500 is probably going to be the target price for this. Okay. How do you make the increases? Because you're going, oh my gosh, how could I raise my program there? And the thing is, you're going to be adding extreme value in the program, adding insane value to make sure that people are getting the transformation faster and faster. Now, there are industries where you just can't do that, right? There's absolutely industries where you just can't do that, and that's totally okay, right? I have friends making millions of dollars with a program that is priced at $550 a month, right? It's totally okay. It's totally okay. But adding value is the way to go. Right? We started with the 2 coaching calls. Then as I brought on team, we started to have Gina do copy critique calls, right? Then I added a Monday mindset call. Then we added, what was next? I can't remember. Somebody help me on the team. Melissa started doing, Jay started doing operations call, Facebook ads call, Selena did operations call. Melissa added, role play calls. And then we started doing co-working sessions for Legion. So, so much different stuff, right? And that's where we're at now, right? And it's not me, but you need to get to that point. You need to have a team or former clients or somebody to support that, right? Like we right now have 10 different calls a week our clients can jump on, but I'm teaching 3 of them. That's it. 3 of them. That's all I can do, right? So, what's going to happen as we continue to increase the price, right? I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but it might look like including some agency services to be getting, their landing page set up or whatever. Or, maybe we're going to hook them up with PR booking service so they get on, 20 podcasts in the first 3 months. I don't know. I'm just making it up. We have some ideas about how we're evolving it, but we're always looking at how can we get people the results faster, right? So that's what you need to be looking at. And again, as you grow, you need to be thinking about who can I bring in, right? Be it a trade, right? Like Gina came in, we did some trade, she started doing copy critique, right? We don't do trade anymore, but at the beginning we did, right? Then we had Melissa come in and teach sales because that's what she does in her job, right? So, Jay does Facebook ads. That's what she teaches in the program. Does that make sense? So you're going to be adding different things, adding different resources, right? I had no idea that's what it's going to evolve into, quite honestly. But as we started looking, how can we get clients results faster? That's when we started adding different layers, right? So now, let's see. Okay. All right. Hi. I'm so good and happy to see you guys. The next thing I want to discuss really quick is the elements of a program that is really going to get you results. And by the way, I'm teaching this in depth in next week's mini retreat. For anybody who's not registered, next week, Monday and Tuesday and a half of Wednesday, we're doing a mini retreat. Usually we do 7-day retreats. Next week, we're doing a mini retreat for people who are busy and we can't schedule out an entire week for this. We're teaching the SERVE method, and this is going to be, I believe, session 1. We're going to go into the in-depth breakdown of this. So if anybody's not registered, go register. Go register. It's, gosh, what is the link? evapolakova.com/mini retreat. So go put yourself in there. But anyhow, let's talk really quickly about what's going to ensure that your clients are getting the results, because that is the most important thing, that they're getting the transformation. Let's see. Number 1, and I've never talked about this before, but I think it's super important, is, write this down, expectations. In the last retreat that we did, I spent so much time talking about not just who this is for, but also who this is not for, right? And I think oftentimes there's a little bit of honesty lacking when we do sales or when we pitch on camera or whatever we have, right? That, people, and you see this in the business coaching space more. And I realized that too, that I needed to be more upfront and more honest about what it actually takes to take your business to multi 6 and 7 figures, right? It's not going to happen by sitting and manifesting on the couch. There is so much skill building, right? There's so many role play one has to do before they become effective at sales calls. There is so much role play on the connect calls. There's so much practicing lead gen. There's so much practicing selling on camera. There's so much practicing making a difference with people in some shape or form. Is a lot of rejection they have to move through, right? When we say, 1.8% conversion rate, that is what, 98.2% rejection rate, right? This is why most people fail, because they can't handle it. They can't handle it, A small percentage of people make it to 6 figures, even smaller to 7 figures, because they have literally so little resilience and everything is taken personally, and they, there's just so much doubt and storytelling and yada, 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 right? So there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not for everybody, right? Can't just go throw spaghetti on the wall. So there's a lot of expectations and being very, very straight about who your program is not for. You have to be clear about it. You have to talk about it. And number 1, it's going to get you in integrity, and you're going to feel like you really, were clear about who this is for. Number 2, it's going to set the expectations. People are going to understand that they might not succeed the first time. Heck, they might have 30 sales calls before they close a client because they just don't know what they're doing yet, right? So expectations and being really, really clear about not who just your program is for, but also about who this is not for. Everybody getting this? Can you get some thumbs up? Can you get some yeses? Number 1, expectations, right? I see a lot of people doing this. It's like they're just trying to fill their program with warm bodies, like anybody, come on in, like everybody come, right? And then you realize that they're the wrong people. And, at the beginning, it's like, just, I totally get it. When you're launching your program, you're just like praying and hoping that it's not going to be just one person in your program, but they're going to be like, where's everybody, right? But as you grow, you need to figure out, okay, you're going to have to be choosy. We're actually moving towards application-only program because we really want to make sure people who are committed and who are ready and who are really, really committed to serving others and who have the skills and so on and so forth, right? So number 1 is expectations. Number 2 is leadership. Leadership, right? A lot of you do your coaching and teaching in your program, but you forget leadership. It's bringing people back. What's important? What do they need to do every single day, every single week in order for them to get the results, right? There's also vision casting constantly. There is bringing them back to what is going to happen, not just when you're selling your program and on your consult, but all the time with people in your program, bringing this back to Here's what you should be seeing in 3, 6, 12 months. Other client wins, celebrating, so that they can see what's possible, right? And you're always going to have clients that you're like, oh my gosh, they'll throw their hands in the air. I'm like, I'm not there yet. Like, wow, why am I so behind? And going to, comparisonitis mode. And you can coach to that. You can say, this is one way you can take it. Or you can see other people are doing it. I can do that too, sort of thing, right? So leadership is super important. Make sure that and even if you're doing one-to-one, right? Like you need to show up and you need to inspire, you need to lead people. Number 3 is teaching. You got to teach your people what to do, right? You got to explain it. No matter what you're doing, whether it's relationships or business coaching or spiritual coaching, you gotta have to explain why they're doing what they're doing and how it works, right? The logical mind, even if you're doing a lot of experiential stuff, the logical mind needs to understand how it's going to work so that it can work, sort of thing, right? You ever notice how when you read a book on personal growth, the first third of the book is talking about how, other people have gotten results and why it works and blah, 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 why you should read it and how you should use it and whatever. It's the same exact thing. Even if you're doing experiential stuff, you need to get people bought into why they're doing what they're doing, right? And depending on what your program is about, there's more or less teaching, right? Like we teach a lot. There's so much to learn, obviously. You can't there's just so much skills that need to be built, right? There's just, it's endless, right? Like people think that I'm going to go to multi 6 figures or 7 figures and it's going to be, I'm just going to set up my funnel right because I've done it wrong. If I just can't figure out how to set the funnel right, then I'm good to go. It's not how it works, right? It's building the skills, and there's the learning portion of it, which is where your teaching comes in. The next thing is the training. This is one of the, or if not the most important thing in your program, the training. I always tell my clients, show up on the training calls. We do role plays, we do co-working sessions. They get to split up in the groups. They practice their connects, they practice their consult. It's the most important thing because you cannot build your skill level without practicing, right? And by the way, think about how this translates in your program, right? If you're coaching, if your program is about communication, train on the communication, right? Get them into diets, practicing. If it's spiritual growth, have them practice the letting go, the emotional surrender, whatever it is, at the actual doingness of it, right? In a group setting so that they can go out there and do it on their own, right? But facilitate the learning through, doing the training session, whatever that looks like, right? If you just tell them, go meditate, well, guess what? They're going to find 15,000 excuses why not to. You bring them on a session, you teach them how to do their emotional release, teach you how to do their AFT or EFT or whatever, doing. Like, do it with them, train them on this, right? Then the next element is accountability. It's really depends on who you're working with. I think there's for us, we see this, there's a lot of accountability needed in the beginning stages of building a business. For example, for us, right? People, it's just we're dealing with, imposter syndrome, rejection, and people are it's so easy for people to get sidetracked with, failure or perceived failure, whatever, right? So that's where accountability becomes really important as we go into QI, which is our tier 2 program, which is designed from low multi 6 to 7 figures. It becomes less important because those are usually people who have sort of worked through that. And they're usually able to perform at a consistent level. So it becomes less important, right? If you're working with high-level executives, you probably don't need to be including a lot of accountability because they're pretty self-accountable because they've gotten to that level where they developed the self-accountability. So it really depends who you're dealing with. I don't believe in accountability needing being important for everybody. I'm somebody who doesn't need accountability, right? At least in business. I could use accountability in, personal fitness for sure, right? Oh my gosh, working out, please, somebody hold me accountable here, right? So it really depends because I'm just not developed the self-accountability in that space, right? So it really depends on who you're targeting your program is. It's not necessary for everybody, right? But depending on your clients, you might want to say, this is very, very important, right? And then the last piece is, of course, coaching, right? It's looking at what they're doing and then giving them the coaching based on the results they're getting or not getting, or what are you observing, right? So, it's coaching is much, much, much more effective when you first have your clients do something, you teach them something, you have them do it, and then you coach them on it. I hope that makes sense, guys, because you can coach them. It's like, I was just going through some, we had a few people in the retreat this weekend, right? And, they're doing it. They're going through their 5-day and day 5 and day 6. And, the usual things that happen, because people don't sign up usually till day 7. They're like, oh my gosh, my pricing is off, or did I give too much? And all this doubt is happening, which then, their coach can come in and work with them on the doubt, on the stories that are going on about pricing or whatever it is, right? So when they're actually doing the thing, then the coaching becomes much more effective, right? So have them, put them in the action, move them through whatever they're resisting, whatever they're afraid of doing. Now you can provide the coaching. I hope that makes sense. This is making sense to everybody. Are you guys finding this useful? Can I get some feedback in the chat? Let's see. Any questions about this so far? How are we doing? Ooh, we're out of time. We are out of time, you guys. All right. I got to jump on another call. So to recap this really quickly, right? So I'm just going to recap the 5 elements, right? Or 6 or however many. I keep adding them because we find out stuff that it's super important. So number 1, expectations. Really, really qualify people into your program. 7-day retreats is a great way to qualify people into your program, right? That's what we teach. Super important, because somebody can make it through your retreat, do the homework, show up, be on the implementation calls. They're about many times more likely to succeed in your program, right? But it's also expectation setting and being very brutally honest about what it's going to take to succeed in your program, right? Number 2 is leadership, right? Always bringing it back to what's important, vision casting, what needs to happen next, bringing people back to the center, inspiring them, right? The next thing is teaching, right? You've got to explain what is it that you need to do, training them on it, holding them accountable, and then coaching on the action, right? So that's kind of like, a high level. Then how it happens, we're going to talk about next week for sure. It's going to be on session 1. So a couple things for you guys, because I need to jump. Number 1, if there's anybody on here who is interested in discussing how to work with us, we're going to put a free consult link in a chat. There's like a form to fill out, blah, blah, blah. You can really, it's 20-minute conversation. Talk to somebody on my team about, is this, how we work with people, is this or is this not a fit for you? Yada, yada, right? Next week's retreat is super important. Just to give you a sense of what's going to happen, I've made a lot of changes to it just because, I really want to, I want this to be like completely life transforming 5 sessions to where your mindset, we take your mindset from here to about here, extreme clarity and extreme shifts of mindset. So you come out of it so clear. Like you feel so confident in exactly what you need to be doing. It's going to be no fluff. You guys know me. I don't do much fluff. We literally give everything away. Why? Because just told you, we don't charge, information is one thing. What we charge it for is really implementation in a program, right? So I don't hold any information back. So the sessions, session number 1, we're going to talk about programs. You're going to design your program. Session 2, you're going to design your 7-day retreat, which you're going to use to fill your program, right? Even if you're doing one-to-one program, you're not ready for one-to-one, it doesn't matter. It's going to be useful too. Or if you're filling your courses, whatever the heck you're filling, or in-person retreats, you can use the same strategy that we're going to teach on session 2 to fill it. Session 3, what's session 3? Lead gen. Oh, yes. Lead gen. Audience building, filling your retreats with people. you know, I've you guys notice when I had Lexia, literally like just Legion comes, it can be so easy. I was doing Legion when I was breastfeeding and filled my retreat groups with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. So I'm going to share with you what I do, or what I did. I don't do it anymore, but I did for months and months and months until we got to our first 100K month. Session 4 is going to be a roadmap. So you're going to know exactly what you do for the next 12 months to get to multi 6 and 7 figures, right? You're going to be basically 10xing where you're at with a roadmap. So if you're at 0, you're going to map it out to a little over 100K. If you're at 50K, you're going to be reverse mapping it to 500K. If you're at 100K, you're going to be reverse mapping this to $1 million. All right. So you're going to be reverse mapping the next 10x increase. And then session 5, we're going to talk about team, because I don't want you to be doing this by yourself. Even if it's just, you know, a VA, super part-time VA or intern, or your teenagers helping you. I want you to be set up for success, because it is extremely difficult to do it by yourself. So I'm going to give you some strategies on how to make your team profitable. All right. And for those of you guys who are at higher level, like this is so, so, so important for you, just to give you a sense of like why this is important. You know, people are so scared of hiring a team because they're like, oh my gosh, it's expense. I don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. But it's the best investment you'll ever have in your business if you know what you're doing, right? Like whoever we bring on our team, we can almost guarantee that the minimum that a team member has ever generated within the first, you know, I want to say 6 weeks on the job, that the absolute minimum a team member has generated was $30,000 in sales. That was the minimum, right? The most I've seen is $300,000 in sales, with the average being 150, right? So, you know, investing into team is the best thing you'll ever do in your business. However, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know how. You need to know how to train them. You need to know metrics, how to set expectations and all that. So that's what session 5 is going to be for. I'm so excited. Can't wait to see you guys there. Okay, Selena, thank you so much for popping the links to consult. I know we're like simulcasting in 8 different groups. So hopefully I can plug the link in there for you. Let's see. We should have like a more memorable link so I could say it on camera, but hopefully you guys will be able to find it. Anyway, just really, really appreciate you guys being here with me live. If you're watching the replay, you know, let me know you are here with us. Thank you so, so, so much for working on your business and spending the time. And I'll see you guys. I think it's, you know, Monday afternoon. The schedule is going to be sent out along with a worksheet and all that for those of you guys who are registered. All right. I'll see you there. Bye, everybody.